The SRL on the NFL. Previews, predictions, and analysis covering every storyline in football every week. The SRL on the NFL. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to the SRL on the NFL. This is episode 3 for week 3 of the NFL season. My name is Brendan Yerkes, joined again by Alex Vachaponte as we're ready to go over last week's games and give our picks. But we're fired up. It's been a lot of fun so far, and we're here to keep it going.
Yup, we had a crazy week 2. We're going to start things out with, of course, the Bills and the Dolphins. The Bills just stomped on the Dolphins, it felt like. Tua had, of course, that horrible head injury. There's a lot of concern there. We don't know exactly when he's going to come back now. And he's one of the catalysts for this team. So you got to have serious concerns of what's going to happen for the Dolphins in the near future. And James Cook just went crazy this game.
Yeah, the Tua thing is definitely a shame because that was like an unforced injury. Like, I feel like, you can't blame him because it's football and you want to get more yards, but it's like he drove into DeMar Hamlin, interestingly enough. But, battling for extra yards, like he could have slid. And I'm not blaming him again, but it's just like a tough situation. Like he takes one hit and bam, it just happens to be a bad one. Like I know he's prone to it. Just everything just lined up badly for that one. And now he's out. The Dolphins 1-1 and didn't look so great in both their games. Yes, they won the first one, but they had to come back against the Jaguars team that hasn't really shown us anything. And that brings you concern. They got Skylar Thompson. They just brought in Tyler Huntley to be their guy for the future. But again, good pieces there. But in a competitive AFC, if you're starting these guys at quarterback, what are you going to do? And Tua's out till week 8 because he's on IR. But even that, can you trust him to come back and be the same? There's going to be the storylines around if he should retire that's already been out there. You said he's not going to, but it just adds to the problems that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly some issues here, and the thing though that just frustrates me about it is just slide. Like Tua, just slide. With your history, with all those head injuries that you've already had in the NFL, you had the first down already. Slide. Like why are we going for extra yards here? I understand he's trying to make a play, but he already made the play. He already had the first down. It would have been 1st and goal for them, and they probably would have scored on that drive, not a problem.
Yeah, and the other side of the things for the Bills, I've picked against them in the first 2 games, and I was definitely wrong. The first game, I figured the Bills are the better team, but I was just like, got to pick some upsets just because. And the Cardinals actually almost ended up winning that game in week 1, and they obviously won this game, which we'll get to a little bit later in week 2. But I was going in with the fact that they lost a lot of pieces. They're filling in that defense, especially a lot of younger players. A lot of their vets that they've built an identity on over the last few years are now gone, and their new guys have played really well, and they beat up on Miami, who again some talented pieces. I think when Tua comes out, that kind of changes it. But Tua didn't really look great in the game, anyways, as social media was saying a lot of. So I guess I might be wrong about this Buffalo Bills team. It's still early to tell what exactly is going to happen because, again, the Miami offense wasn't very good. So we'll see as they continue if they keep this up or maybe just some early season stuff. But I may have been wrong about the Buffalo Bills being a team that significantly regressed. Well, on paper, they did, but so far on the field, they have not missed a beat.
I mean, yeah, this is clearly a really well-coached team by Sean McDermott, and they just have the pedigree of winning and being one of the best teams in the AFC, and here they are. They're still one of the best teams in the AFC, at least to this point.
Yeah, until it's taken away from them, it's,
Right.
they're going to be in the mix. Like, I was proven wrong. I thought Miami would kind of leapfrog them this year with the talent that they have, but like we just said, did not look up to par with Buffalo.
Definitely not, and again, without Tua in the near future, I personally don't see it. So let's look towards one of the 1:00 games we had. This is a wild one: Vegas and Baltimore.
Yeah, I really can't believe the Ravens lost this game. The fact that the Baltimore Ravens are 0-2 is insane. Like, I get they played Kansas City in the first week, But losing to the Raiders is inexcusable, especially the way that they did. You have a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. You let them go down the field. I know there were some questionable penalties in this game, but what are you going to do? It's football. And if you're Lamar Jackson, you're leading this Baltimore team that wants to win a Super Bowl, then you got to win these games. You can't go 0-2. And yes, I get the Bengals are 0-2 as well, and that, the Browns are 0-2, and the division is still in range, but it's just not a situation that you want to be in. Correction, I know the Browns are 1-1, but they did not look great in their two games, even though they did win this week.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, for Baltimore, it's just like, really? They're 0-2? Like, it just doesn't even seem real at this point. You can't drop games at home like that, especially to a Raiders team that is just obviously inferior to them. But clearly the Raiders have some interesting pieces that we're kind of sleeping on. Brock Bowers looked great. And their passing attack looked pretty decent, which is surprising against a pretty well reputed defense in the Ravens. And here they are. They go out on the road and they take the win, which is very shocking overall.
The Raiders have a lot of good names, but I think they're lacking in depth is why they're not really a good team. Like you said, Brock Bowers, Devontae Adams is still there, one of the best wide receivers in the game, although he's starting to regress a little bit with some age. But then Jacoby Myers has been very solid for them the past couple of years as a another depth wide receiver. But past that, Gardner Minshew can win games. He's shown before that he could start in the league as one of those obviously bottom tiered starting quarterbacks, but he's not bad by any stretch. He's very serviceable. And when they get, good line play and their defensive line is usually good, then they could kind of disrupt some games.
They're definitely, I think, now looking at how they played for the first couple games, I think they're going to make things difficult for every team that they play. Like, they're not going to be an easy game on the schedule.
Well, that's what you get with Antonio Pierce. He's going to fire those guys up.
Definitely. So let's look towards the Chargers and the Panthers.
I think same old, Panthers not very good. They benched Bryce Young after this game, which is very questionable. But what are they going to do? The team is terrible. There's no protection. He's got no time after the snap to do anything, and the wide receivers that they have can't get the ball to them if you have no time. Just everything's a disaster. The Chargers sneak away again. Quentin Johnson actually scored a touchdown, which is insane. So if they can get him going, that would be huge, which they're lacking a lot of wide receiver depth after losing Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. But the Chargers are 2-0, one of the only few teams in the league to be 2-0. And, you just take it and roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers, they looked obviously very good this game, but they were playing a mediocre, or should I say, horrible opponent. Bryce Young, he hasn't shown me anything, and I get it, but you can't give up on a number 1 overall pick like that so early. It's only been a couple years. It's only been a couple games into this season, and you're already giving up on him. You're benching him for Andy Dalton.
They set him up for failure.
Like, what are we doing? Like, you gave up all these assets to the Bears for not even playing him? Like, that just... Why?
It might be one of the worst trades in NFL history. We'll see, but...
It already is looking like it.
And, it's not even Bryce Young's fault. Who knows how he would have been in, like, a decent situation, but it's just a disaster. Moving along here, the Saints routed the Cowboys, actually, very surprisingly. The Cowboys looked really good in their Week 1 game against Cleveland, and then home opener. I don't know. I just feel like something about the Cowboys in their first home game. They usually just don't look that great. And there's always like a big blowout against Dallas early in the season. And the Saints do it. Kamara, big day, as he occasionally goes quiet for a little while, and then bam, big game from Alvin Kamara. And Derek Carr's again, he's looked solid as well. And they're 2-0, one of the few teams as well.
So, am I now going to go back and just say Derek Carr is good again? Like, is that like a crazy thing to say in 2024 that Derek Carr is now good or even borderline elite? I've seen people are like making jokes on Twitter. They're like, "Oh, watch out for Derek Carr in an election year." It's funny. All of his stats,
really,
like 2016, 2020, and like now 2024. I mean, it's early, first couple games, but all of his stats look so much better in an election year, which is just so random. But here we are.
That's crazy.
Here we are. Elite Derek Carr.
I don't think Derek Carr is that bad. I think last year, you're moving to a new place for the first time in your career. They lost some players. And it's still the similar team, but I think it's a comfort thing. He's always been solid. He's never been elite in his career. Obviously, you said the election years he's been really good, but he's been an above average quarterback for a large portion of his career. And now he's settling back into it. And, there's a chance for him to win some games. They're already 2-0. And I wouldn't expect it to slow down anytime soon. I think he's got a bad rap last year. He wasn't great, but I think you already see the improvement.
You definitely already see the improvement, the comfortability, all that type of stuff. It looks like it's all really starting to come forward for him. So let's look towards the Buccaneers and the Lions. This was a crazy one as well.
Yeah, you got this one right. I know last week we didn't do too great. We both went 7-9.
Not too great,
which is worse than week 1 where we both went 8-8. We thought that wasn't great, so maybe we'll be over 500 this week. But the early season, a lot of upsets so far. So I went with Detroit. They don't end up winning. A lot of trips to the red zone that they can't capitalize on. I'm not really concerned about this team. I think, because the Buccaneers look good. Okay, I don't think this is the Lions really losing. Again, though, you gotta, when you get to the red zone so many times, you gotta put the ball in the end zone, and that could be fixed. But Baker Mayfield is just feeling himself right now, and he's kind of proven, while being healthy, that he can be a top quarterback in this league. And so far he has, and he's kind of found himself a home in Tampa with a good offense around him. And, they get a big upset win. Kind of nobody saw it coming in week 2, because a lot of these games, you win week 1, you're like, yeah, whatever, you had a good game, good start to the season. It's week 1, who knows what's going on with every team. Week 2, you come out against a team that almost went to the Super Bowl and you prove it again. That's a big win.
It's definitely a big win. The Lions usually always play great at home as well, and the Buccaneers showed up and were able to beat them on the road. A lot of road warriors this week, which is pretty insane. And Chris Godwin turned back the clock. He looked amazing. I mean, he's always usually pretty consistent, but he looked like a few years ago Chris Godwin, which we haven't seen in a bit. And yeah, this Buccaneers team is dangerous. They made the playoffs last year. They beat the Eagles in a playoff game. I mean, of course, the Eagles were going through that drastic collapse, but here they are, and Baker Mayfield is looking like a really solid to really good, even borderline great NFL quarterback. It's really cool to see, and shout out the Browns for not believing in him, and look how much that hurts them.
Yeah, that's really backfired on them now. Moving along, the Colts and the Packers. The Colts now 0-2, 2 close games. They can't get it done. Green Bay, really not a great day on offense. I think it's just like kind of an old-fashioned football game. Just they ended up out on top. I don't think really anything too crazy happened in this game. So we're going to move along. But the Packers are out even at 1-1. The Browns and the Jaguars. The Browns sneak away in this one. The Jags now fall to 0-2, 2 winnable games that they're unable to get it done. And the Browns, again, not looking great. They're able to even out at 1-1 after a disastrous game week 1. But again, Deshaun Watson not looking very good. And as we, go through the season, we got to see if he can get any better, because this is not an ideal situation for them. Yes, they're 1-1, but 2 games where he did not look very good. This one we'll definitely talk about more. San Francisco and Minnesota. How about Sam Darnold? I mean, I'm so here for it, as Alex knows. Just Darnold finally in a good situation, good receivers around him. He's got a good offensive line. He's got a quarterback-friendly coach that's actually an offensive guru, not like his, second coach in the NFL and Adam Gase. And he's balling. They upset, probably the biggest upset of the week, I would say, is this one, the Niners losing to the Vikings. And it was a close game, very, I would say, low scoring in this game. And Darnold, he looks great. That pass to Justin Jefferson was insane, 97 yards, I believe. And that kind of opened it up. They went out to a big lead, and then their defense shut it down.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings have been one of the biggest surprises early on in the regular season. I didn't expect them to beat the Giants week 1. They completely shut me down on that. And here they are beating one of the best teams in the NFL in the 49ers. Sam Darnold has looked phenomenal. I'm going to give him his flowers for sure. Also because towards the end of that game, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that Jefferson and Addison weren't even playing like towards the end of that game. So it was really just Sam Darnold throwing great throws out there to close things out. So kudos to him. And I also am now starting to question possibly what's going on here with the 49ers. Christian McCaffrey is going to be out for a while. Obviously, he's now put on IR. And now we're hearing concerns about Debo possibly being out for a few weeks. So there's concern there too. They're starting to fall apart a bit.
Yeah, the McCaffrey thing definitely interests me. A lot of fantasy people are probably upset about that they didn't disclose anything until the day of the was the night of the game, week one. They just said he's
Yeah.
not playing, and now all of a sudden he's on IR. So that's certainly something strange that we don't see. The Seahawks were in New England. New England almost going 2-0, surprisingly. That game went to overtime. It took a game-winning field goal from Seattle to pull it out. So that scares me a little bit for this week with the Patriots. Jets and the Titans. The Jets, Aaron Rodgers plays a whole game. The Jets win a game with Aaron Rodgers. In the beginning, it did not look good for the Jets. Tennessee came out and just lit up their defense. They made a few changes, and on both sides of the ball, they had to replace some players. Jermaine Johnson out for the year, torn Achilles, just awful. He was going to have a expanded role. He was really good last year. He made the Pro Bowl, so that's a tough loss. Mosley goes out, and they put in Jamie and Sherwood. He played a lot better. The defense kind of settled in. Let Will Levis make a mistake, and that was really where the tide turned. When Will Levis did this thing last week with a terrible interception, they're in the red zone, and they're going to kick a field goal at least, and Will Levis throws the ball backwards, and it's a fumble. The Jets take it over, and then that's where the momentum kind of shifted. The Jets kept trying to go with the run. The run wasn't working. Then they go outside more, quicker throws for Aaron Rodgers, letting him air it out a little bit more, and that kind of opened things up. They were able to score some points. Big day for Braylon Allen, rookie out of Wisconsin. Youngest player ever to score in the NFL, even with some other guy who played in 1930, which is crazy to the day, if you saw that.
That's insane.
So yeah, then he had a good game. Breece Hall, the touchdown. Jets didn't make it look easy. I didn't think it would be easy for the Jets. I never thought it'd be easy this game, but they get the win.
Interesting. I mean, I personally would have said, looking at this game on the schedule, I would have said, wow, the Jets are going to just destroy them. Definitely didn't look that way at all. Titans came out very competitive. And again, it's just all falling on the mistakes of Will Levis. If Levis just cleans up those turnovers at the end of games, they would have been 2-0 to start out probably, which is pretty insane for them. So everyone pretty much on the Jets looked pretty solid throughout the game. I know for the Titans, there was that one big touchdown to Calvin Ridley. So that was a good thing for them. But other than that, there was really not much going on there. And shout out the Jets.
Yeah, the Jets. Like you said, you thought it'd be a more of a blowout. I think the Jets just needed to scratch and claw to a win. It's the first one for Rodgers. I didn't think it'd be easy. It's kind of like a trap game a little bit. Now, I will say Tennessee's defense is very good, and that's going to make them in a lot of games. The fact that they're 0-2 is tough. That defense is going to make things difficult on a lot of people, and they're not as bad of a team as they appear to be. But Levis is the problem, like you said. That fumble, the next play he gets back out there, he throws an interception. He throws a deep ball, and it gets picked. It's a double coverage, so that's just not smart. But the Jets got the win. It wasn't easy. It wasn't pretty. It came down to the wire. They had to make a fourth down stop in the red zone. And now you could move on. You could breathe because if you're 0-2, then you're in a disaster situation with that team. And now you could breathe a little bit going into Thursday night. But, we'll see how it impacts the team going forward. But definitely a fun game, though.
Definitely a fun game for sure. Let's look now towards
the other New York team.
The New York Football Giants at the Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, that was something. The first team ever in NFL history to score 3 touchdowns, allow 0, and still lose. That's the New York Giants. They lose 21-18. But, listen, this isn't even about anything game related. You could talk about the neighbors drop. You could talk about all those things that, might have happened in the game that lost. But it comes down to incompetence running the team. If your kicker gets injured, why is there no backup plan? It goes to the GM if they knew about it or not to potentially pick somebody else up before the game, and to the coach for not having a backup plan or somebody who could take PATs. Because then you miss the first one, then you got to go for 2 and you don't get it. That's 3 points they leave on the board. That's a whole field goal, and that's what they lost by.
The thing that's really frustrating about this is just you have a healthy kicker, we're winning this game. That's the most frustrating part.
That's why he got hurt in warmups, right?
I think it was maybe during the opening kickoff. It may have been.
Okay. There
But
needs to be a
still,
backup plan.
there needs
Somebody's
the way I view it, also just this should be a prereq for any punter in the NFL. You should be able to kick a field goal 30 yards or less. I'm not saying that you have to have a crazy leg because clearly then you'd be a field goal kicker. Totally get that. But any NFL punter should be able to kick a 30-yard field goal or less. That's insane to me that
for emergency purposes.
yeah, for purposes like
Like they
that.
don't have to do it often, but you
No,
like exactly because that's the difference between the Giants winning this game and losing this game.
that's what I'm saying. Like they were right there towards the red zone. And yeah, everyone wants to clown Neighbors for dropping that ball. And I understand the ball was right in his hands. He should have caught it. Okay. He had an amazing game. He was the reason why they were in this game to begin with. It's because of the kicking situation. The hands were tied. It's horrible. I I know that now there's a rule for quarterbacks where there's like a third emergency quarterback from what I understand. But I'm also hearing that potentially they may do that same thing for kickers. I think this game solidifies that we need this for kickers as well. Because look at what can happen to a game without a solid, not even solid, just a regular kicker. Just a
They should
regular kicker.
do it like the NHL's E-Bug, the emergency backup goalie. They both get hurt. There's some guy in the stands that's ready to go.
There we go.
Just have an emergency
I'll
kicker
take
for
anything.
both teams.
Just attempt a field goal. I do not want to see going for two every single time and not getting it every single time and then having to go for it on fourth down that late in the game when clearly we didn't need to.
Yep. It's a shame.
But
Moving on to the 4
football.
o'clock slate. The Rams and the Cardinals, you nailed this one. The Cardinals get the big upset, and it was really all because of Marvin Harrison Jr. in the early goings.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison looked dominant right out the gate. I think he had 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, and they were 2 massive plays or something like that. He's a stud. He just needs to get the ball. In the week 1, they weren't really feeding him the ball. Just keep feeding Marvin Harrison the ball, and good things are going to happen. And yeah, this Rams team is very hurt right now, and I'm very concerned at how they're going to even keep afloat for a bit because Cooper Kupp is now injured. He got injured during this game, and you already had Puka on IR. There's complications here. Who's going to really be catching the ball? Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson? Like, I guess, but those are not the studs that you just had.
Maybe they should pick up Jalen Reagor.
Yeah, like solid first.
He just got cut for doing something stupid. But listen, I put the Rams in the 7th spot in my playoff predictions at the last wild card. But at this rate, it's not going to happen. They're 0-2. They're too injured. They're going to fall too far behind. There's too many teams that are playing well, and some that could kind of surprise. Like this Cardinals team, I'm not going to say they're going to make the playoffs. I think that's too much of a stretch. But Kyler Murray's got to get some respect put on his name. People kind of forgot how good he was. He gets a bad rap for different things that he's done, but he could throw it, man. He could run. He's very talented. They have a lot of fun pieces in this team. They're not ready yet, but they're definitely trending in the right direction. They're coached well by Jonathan Gannon, who I know a lot of people, when he left the Eagles, were happy that he left the Eagles because they didn't like how he ran the defense fully. But the Cardinals are in a good spot right now. 2 competitive games, 2 high-scoring games offensively against 2 teams with some solid defenses. So definitely things trending up there in Arizona. Pittsburgh and Denver, the Steelers get the win here. Denver, same old, and Pittsburgh somehow 2-0 just off the strength of their defense being very good. Kansas City and Cincinnati, this one is always a big one. I think they scheduled it early so they could get Burrow and Mahomes with no injuries. Chiefs get the win. I know there was a lot of controversy at the end about the pass interference call against the Bengals, which set up Harrison Butker's game-winning field goal. And listen, I don't think it's a bad call. I think it's a penalty. I mean, I don't know what people are watching. Like, yes, I get there's an agenda that the Chiefs are favored by the league and get some official help sometimes. I've experienced it. They played the Jets last year, and there was a terrible call on an interception that took it away, which was way late. But this one was pass interference. The receiver goes up to jump the ball for the ball, and as he's up there, before the ball comes, the defender pushes him away. I don't see how that's not a penalty.
I mean, it's a penalty. I understand, like, everyone's like, oh, well, they're just pushing for the Chiefs. Oh, this is the Chiefs, like, 13th man, and it's like a picture of a ref or something like that. Like, I've seen it everywhere all the time, but this was a legitimate penalty. Everyone needs to relax. the Bengals looked much more encouraging than they did week 1, where they looked lifeless against the Patriots. Again, it's not great that they start off 0-2, but they start off 0-2 basically every year. So I'm not extremely concerned about them yet. I hope that T. Higgins can actually be healthy so we can see what that fully looks like. But I'm not fully concerned yet about the Bengals, but it's not great that they started off 0-2.
They could feel a little bit better about themselves that the Ravens are 0-2, but then again, the Steelers are 2-0, and we'll see if they start to trend downward. And that's definitely a very good division, and those two teams need to start figuring it out because they can get backed up quick, as good as they are.
Definitely.
All right, Chicago and Houston, Sunday Night Football. That was a fun game. We both had the Texans winning, and I think the Texans were a lot better than the score was. I think they were much better. They were dominating the Bears. They just couldn't really score, which I think will work out as they move along. But they're 2-0. They got to be feeling good about that. For the Bears, Caleb Williams, he was okay. Again, same thing as the first week. Not really too much going on. The offensive line was meh. Like there's some things that need to be worked on there, but they're 1-1. I wouldn't, put the full on panic button on the Bears yet, but definitely need to see some improvements. But the Texans, I'm not surprised. And again, I think they were better than what the score reflected.
Yeah, I mean, the Texans, we all expected them to win. They show out. They do what they're supposed to do. But there are a lot of concerns on this Bears offensive line for me. 7 sacks? You let up 7 sacks in a game? That's insane. And you're going to try to have this young quarterback be able to succeed? You got to play a better offensive line than 7 sacks. I don't care. I understand they're not elite by any means, but 7 sacks is inexcusable. He has such great weapons to work with, so it's very disappointing to see that he's not able to get them the ball. But offensive line just has to be better for the Bears.
Yeah. And the Monday night game, Falcons and the Eagles, bird matchup. And the Eagles looked like they were going to win. I thought it was over. They had it. They were in Falcon territory. You think everything's going to be fine. They're going to run out the clock, and that's it. The Falcons are dead. Well, Saquon Barkley drops the ball. The Falcons go quickly the other way. Drake London makes the catch, and then they get the interception from Jesse Bates, their new safety addition. And a surprise and a much-needed win for the Falcons to go 1-1 and not fall to 0-2.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It was pretty satisfying to see Saquon drop that ball.
It has to be.
For them to end up blowing that game because of it. But this is not all on Saquon. Saquon actually had a really good game for them. We need to talk about Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni has made a lot of questionable decisions over the past season. People are starting to question if maybe he should be on the hot seat for not being too great of a coach. And this is a horrible, and I mean horrible decision by him. You are right towards the end of the game. Saquon is having a great game on the ground. In terms of clock management purposes, you run that football every single time. You're not passing the ball in that situation. Because look what happens. Yeah, it was in his hands, but you drop the ball, you save now a timeout for them, and they go marching down the field, and they end up winning this game.
Yeah, definitely. He's been on the hot seat for years, like you said, but how good that team is, and if he's just a product of the talent that's there and he doesn't really have to do too much. He was relying on his coordinators heavily, and they got him through halfway last year. Then stuff started going downhill, and they're new coordinators again this year. And so far, man, they won the first game over the Packers in a good game, but I don't think they look great, like I said last week's show. So we'll see if they can figure it out. As we move on to our picks for this week, we're going to start out with Thursday Night Football, Patriots, Jets. And for the third week in a row, I'm picking the Jets. I think there's a lot more to be encouraged about. You're playing the Patriots, who might be missing a bunch of their O-linemen, and they're already a thin team regardless of depth. So they might have some rookies out there on that line. The Jets D-line had a little bit of a breakthrough last week. Will McDonald had 3 sacks, so you're going to expect more of that from those guys. And I think the Jets crowd is going to be electric. They're going to be fired up to see Rodgers play a home game. Hopefully everything goes well this time. There's no disaster. Short week, and then they're going to have a lot of days off, but I'm going to take the Jets.
Yeah, I'm also going to be going with the Jets here. I just think overall on paper, they're a much better team. But I think the Patriots are going to keep it close because look at the first couple games for the Patriots. They end up winning, surprisingly, week 1 against the Bengals. Week 2, it was, again, they lost, but they only lost by field goal in overtime. So for no reason, I think it's going to be like a field goal or maybe a touchdown like game. But I do like the Jets at home here.
Jets got to pass the ball. The
Yeah.
Patriots' run defense is very good. They've been struggling there. Got to get it outside, get the ball out of Rodgers' hands through the air. Giants at Cleveland. Give me the Browns. Giants now, they lose to Washington. They lose to Minnesota. Now, Minnesota might be better than we thought, but now playing a good Cleveland defense, still trying to find themselves. And this is no better game for the Browns to do it against the Giants. They just don't look great right now. They do have a kicker this time, so that should help. But I still think Cleveland, even with their offense not firing on all cylinders, will win the game.
Yeah, I'm also going with Cleveland here. I told you the first two episodes I was picking the Giants the first 2 weeks, and then I wasn't going to be picking them for a while, and that is what I'm doing here. The Browns just have a much better defense. They're probably going to lock down this offense that really isn't too special besides Malik Neighbors, who looked really good last week. It just sucks that, of course, he dropped that potential game-winning pass. But, yeah, give me the Browns at home here for sure.
Right. Bears at Colts. The Colts are 0-2. I think I picked them last week. You picked them week 1. I think they get their first win this week. The Bears, it's going to be the same on offense. The Colts have been so close in both of their games. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be a big explosive win, but I do think they're going to inch out over the Bears.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be going the Colts here as well. I just think I like their chances at home. They've looked solid. They just haven't been able to close things out. But the Bears also do have a lot of concerns on that offensive line, like I just mentioned. So, yeah, give me the Colts. I don't think that they're going to start off 0-3. I think that would be very tough for them to climb out of.
Next game we have the Eagles and the Saints. And you know what? I'm going to go with the Saints. They're 2-0. They've looked really good. And the Eagles' disaster ending last week. The Saints are moving right along in no trouble, where the Eagles, I think, are kind of it's too early to say self-imploding, but I think there's a lot of pointing the finger and being like, what's going on here? There's a lot like in their minds right now. There's a lot on their minds where the Saints are playing stress-free, enjoying their games, enjoying their time, and they come in there at home and they're fired up and they're gonna win. They're gonna upset the Eagles here.
I'm also going with the Saints here. They just look dominant against Dallas. I was not expecting that whatsoever. And I think that the Eagles are honestly of that same caliber in terms of quality of team and stuff like that. And election year Derek Carr, he's looking great. I think I'm gonna be rolling with the Saints here. I think Kamara may also be primed for another big game, so look out for that.
I think that's what helps Carr when Kamara plays even better, that it makes it easy on him. Next game, Battle of 2-0, surprise Battle of 2-0 is the Chargers and the Steelers. And the Steelers, it's been all about that defense. And if that gets shut down Justin Herbert, then they'll maybe that'll be their best chance. But Herbert looking good so far. Harbaugh simulating back to NFL life very well. And I'm going to take the Chargers here on the road. I think that might be a little bit of a surprise with how the Steelers defense is played, but you got to just go for it sometimes.
I'm gonna be rolling with the Steelers here. I just think the Chargers, they showed decent promise in the first couple games, but they haven't really played anyone crazy yet. I understand that the Steelers haven't really played too well either, but I just trust their defense more, and I think that the Chargers don't really have too much playmakers to counteract them. I mean, J.K. Dobbins has looked great in terms of the run game, but I think that run game is going to get shut down with T.J. Watt on the outside. So give me the Steelers.
All right, our first difference of the week here. We got the Broncos going to Tampa Bay to take the Bucks. Bo Nix hasn't looked great. It looks like he just got thrown in the fire. I think the same thing continues here. Baker's going to have another good game against a not very strong Broncos team. Bring them to 3-0 and keep his party alive.
Yeah, Baker's been looking great. I'm rolling with Baker as well. The Broncos are just overall not too great of a team right now. Bo Nix he just looks like a rookie out there. I mean, it's tough, but I think he has a lot of potential here. But I am not really too impressed with this offense, and the Bucks have just looked really, really good out the gate. So give me the Bucks.
Right. Packers-Titans is a very interesting game here. I think both these teams are in similar situations. Packers 1-1, Titans 0-2, so different record. But the quarterback situation is interesting. Malik Willis is now playing in this game, going against his former team, and Will Levis. And I'm going to actually take the Titans. I think that they're in a better situation. Their defense showed me a lot of signs the last 2 weeks. If Will Levis cannot turn the ball over, like we mentioned, then I think they're going to be able to come out. But like I said, Malik Willis, former team, and that defense is going to probably want to feast on him. But their secondary played well, and their line is good. Their run defense is very good, the Titans. They're going to want to run it on the other side with Jacobs, try to get things going there, and I think that's going to shut down, making Malik Willis have to throw the ball more than that's going to lead to some problems. So give me Tennessee at home again.
Yeah, I'm going to also be rolling with Tennessee here. I think Malik Willis is not too great. Personally, I thought he was a cool draft prospect, but clearly he hasn't shown much, at least on the NFL level. Will Levis has looked very solid in the NFL, at least from what I've seen personally. It's just those mistakes towards the end of games. If he's able to clean that up, I think he shouldn't really have much of a problem here without a Jordan Loveless Packers. So I'm going to be going with the Titans here as well.
Panthers taking on the Raiders. Are we both rolling Raiders here?
Yeah, we're going Raiders.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much debate here.
Not really too much to say, especially when they beat the Andy Dalton makes it a little bit more interesting.
Really?
Maybe makes it closer. I don't know, because I guess he's experienced, you know.
I guess, but it's Andy Dalton.
But then again, he's not as mobile as Bryce Young.
Correct.
In this situation. But we'll both roll with the Raiders. Dolphins going to Seattle. Now, this became interesting with Tua Tagovailoa being out. But I think I'm going to roll with Miami still. Seattle won last week playing New England, and they just squeaked out of it. Miami still has enough talent to win some games. And although this game is going to be in Seattle, I think that it's going to be heavy on the run game. They're going to give it to Achane, and their defense is going to be able to keep it close on Geno, and they're going to just squeak out with the win.
I'm going to be going with Seattle here. I just think them at home, I trust them more at home. Geno has looked really good out the gate, and with Skylar Thompson under the helm, he looked solid in that playoff game like a couple years back, but I don't know. I think I'm just going to be trusting the more trustworthy quarterback at this point in Geno Smith, so I'm going to be going with Seahawks.
Fair enough. Cardinals hosting the Lions here. I'm going to go Detroit. Looking to bounce back. I think they find the end zone against a defense that's just okay in the Cardinals. I know I was hyping them up before, but a bounce back situation. Now, I still think it'll be a high scoring game. Cardinals offense, like we said, showing a lot, but Detroit, they're a good team. These are games they have to win, and they lose to a good team last week, and they bounce back here with a win.
Yeah, I just think the Lions are just way too talented on paper to lose against this Cardinals team. I think the Cardinals, though, have shown a lot of promise, and I think that they're going to put up a lot of points. I think this is going to be a shootout. You could make an argument that this may end up being the game of the week, where just down the field touchdowns, back and forth. But yeah, give me the Lions here on the road.
This is a game I'm very curious to see, but it's Ravens and Cowboys. Ravens 0-2, the Cowboys now 1-1. Both teams coming off tough losses last week in different ways. Obviously, the late lead lost, and then the blowout for the Cowboys. So I'm going to lean towards Dallas here. They've shown me more this year. Now I get the Ravens played Kansas City in Week 1, but Dallas's offense was able to play well against a good Cleveland defense, and I think the Ravens are reeling right now. They have their backs against the wall. There's more pressure on them to win than there is Dallas. So I think Dallas is just going to kind of forget that last week happened. Think about the simple things. Get the ball to CeeDee Lamb. Try to get the run game going. And then their defense is going to try to get Lamar running. And, that usually, the more he has to run, then usually the things are going right for that defense because he has to try and feel the need to make plays. So Dallas is at home. I expect them to bounce back.
I just don't see the Ravens going 0-3. And I know
that's the crazy thing.
I know that last week I told myself, well, I don't see the Ravens going 0-2, and here we are. But I just trust Lamar Jackson. I feel like I can't even think. Has there even been a stretch in the regular season in his career where he's lost 3 games in a row?
There can't be. There's no way.
I don't think so. I think he's just played way too well and too dominant as a starter in terms of just winning games. So I think personally, I'm going to be going with the Ravens here. They're, at least in terms of what Dallas has done, they haven't looked crazy impressive. I understand that they looked okay against the Browns, but I feel like that was just more of the Browns playing terrible, and they got their teeth kicked in against the Saints last week, which again I thought the Saints were just kind of meh, and maybe they're kind of good. So I'm gonna be taking the Ravens here. I can't see an 0-3 start for them. That'd be insane.
So the 49ers are going to be taking on the Rams. They lose last week. At least both teams lose, but the Rams are too banged up. I'm going to take San Francisco to win again. I think you're with me there.
Yeah. I'm taking San Francisco for sure, even though they also are dealing with injuries, but 49ers just have way more talent through and through.
Chiefs and Falcons is the Sunday night game. I'm going to take Kansas City. Big win for Atlanta last week. Atlanta's as the home team, but Kansas City, they just, they keep rolling, doing their thing.
I'm rolling with Kansas City until they prove me otherwise, so give me Kansas City. Falcons looked decent last week, but Kansas City's Kansas City. Whole different ball game.
Yeah, expecting a big offensive game here. The Falcons still low scoring in both games, but they started to figure out a little bit with that late drive. So we'll see if they can keep that going. But I think it'll be very offensive. 2 Monday night games: Jaguars, Bills. I'm going to roll with Buffalo for the first time this season. They're 2-0. Jacksonville hasn't impressed me. They're going to fall to 0-3, which would be a tough situation for them, especially after they thought they were going to win the first game. But Buffalo, their offense is good. Josh Allen's playing at an elite level right now, kind of elevating the players that he has around him without Stephon Diggs. And I think that's really the storyline there. Like, their defense has been solid, but Allen's going to have a good game against the Jags defense, which has just been okay.
Yeah, I'm also going to be going with the Bills here. I just think that they've looked way too good the first couple games when we thought that they were going to be a diminished version of themselves this year. They clearly have not shown that at this point. And the Jaguars are making the mistakes that they made in the second half of the season last year, where they just lose on stupid plays towards the end of the game. Give me the Bills here.
And the last game, Commanders and Bengals. I think the Bengals get their first win. Commanders looked good last week. They couldn't score a touchdown, though. That's a problem. But, they get their win against the Giants. Now they're playing Cincinnati, who's hungry to get that first win. They looked better last week, and I think that they will get it here.
Yeah, they've definitely looked much better last week against Kansas City, which, again, is a big game for them. And yeah, this is an absolute must-win for the Bengals. You cannot start off 0-3 and expect to make the playoffs. It's a very tough road to get there if you start off 0-3. So give me the Bengals here at home for sure.
And that's it. Episode 3 of SRL on the NFL, all done. Again, my name is Brendan Yerkes, joined alongside Alex Vachapante. Make sure to check out all of our social medias at srl.media on Instagram and TikTok. And check out our YouTube channel, SRL Media. There's a visual version of this and an audio version of this you can find on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'll see how our picks do this week, and thank you so much for tuning in.